I never thought I'd become the neighborhood villain for refusing to let strangers swim in my backyard pool, but that's exactly what happened last summer. It started with a single knock on my door and spiraled into a 3-month nightmare that eventually involved the police, lawyers, and security footage that you wouldn't believe unless you saw it yourself. My name is Oliver Baxter, and after 15 years of service in the Army, I'd finally settled down in the Sunnycrest Estates, a quiet suburban neighborhood with neat lawns and friendly neighbors. Well, mostly friendly. I'd purchased my modest 3-bedroom home with my VA loan and invested my savings into installing a beautiful in-ground pool, something I'd dreamed about during those long, sweltering deployments overseas. The pool wasn't extravagant by any means, but it was mine. A simple rectangular design with a small deck area, surrounded by a mandatory 6-foot privacy fence with a locked gate, all up to code and properly permitted. I'd worked hard for this little piece of paradise, picking up extra shifts at the security consulting firm where I worked since leaving the service. It was a sweltering Saturday in June when the trouble began. I was grilling some burgers beside my pool when the doorbell rang. Standing on my porch was Karen Whitfield, the newly elected HOA president, with her perfectly highlighted bob haircut and a clipboard clutched to her chest. "Good afternoon, Mr. Baxter," she said with a tight smile that didn't reach her eyes. "I'm here to discuss your pool situation." I wiped my hands on a towel. "My pool situation?" "Yes. Several homeowners have expressed concern that you haven't been sharing your pool amenity with the community." I blinked, certain I'd misheard her. "I'm sorry, what?" Karen sighed as if explaining something to a child. "Your swimming pool. The neighborhood children would like to use it, especially during this heat wave. We'd like to establish a schedule for community access." I almost laughed, thinking it was a joke. "Karen, it's my private pool, in my backyard. It's not a community amenity." Her smile tightened even further. "Actually, according to HOA bylaw section 22B, all water features visible from community property may be designated as shared amenities by majority board vote." "That can't be right," I said, growing concerned. "My pool isn't visible from any community property. It's behind my privacy fence." "It's visible from the Thompson's second-floor window," she countered smoothly. "And they're on the board. We've already taken the vote." Now I was getting annoyed. "Karen, I don't mean to be rude, but that's absurd. I paid for this pool with my own money. It's on my private property. There's no way your HOA can force me to open it to the neighborhood." Karen's fake smile disappeared. "We'll see about that. Expect a formal notice tomorrow." She turned on her heel and marched back down my walkway. I stood there, burger flipper in hand, completely baffled by what had just happened. Surely this was some kind of misunderstanding. It wasn't. The next morning, I found an official-looking letter tucked into my door. On HOA letterhead, it informed me that I had 7 days to comply with community pool access requirements, or face daily fines of $100. The letter cited the same obscure bylaw Karen had mentioned. I immediately called my buddy Tanner, who happens to be a real estate attorney. "That's complete garbage, Ollie," he assured me after I read him the letter. "I've never heard of any such provision in any HOA agreement anywhere. Do you have a copy of your HOA covenant?" I did, and after digging through it together over the phone, we confirmed what I already suspected: no such bylaw existed. Section 22B was about lawn ornament restrictions, not pools. "They're making it up," Tanner said. "Ignore the letter. If they try to fine you, contact me immediately, and we'll send a cease and desist." Relieved but still uneasy, I decided to install security cameras around my property that evening. Something told me this wasn't going to end with one ridiculous letter. I was right. 3 days later, I returned home from work to find a group of people: Karen, 2 other HOA board members, and 3 children I didn't recognize, standing outside my gate. "We're here for afternoon swim time," Karen announced, holding up a piece of paper. "As per the schedule we sent you." I hadn't received any schedule, and I told her so. It was emailed to all residents, she insisted. Now please unlock your gate. The children have been waiting very patiently. Karen, I'm not opening my pool to strangers. It's a liability I'm not willing to take on, and more importantly, it's my private property. The bylaw you cited doesn't exist. One of the children, a boy of about 8, started to whine. But Mom said we could swim here. Karen shot me a venomous look. Now you're disappointing children. Is that the kind of neighbor you want to be? I'm sorry, but the answer is no, I said firmly, then went inside, ignoring Karen's indignant calls after me. That night, I got a call from my next-door neighbor, Teresa O'Connor, a kindergarten teacher who'd always been friendly to me. Oliver, I thought you should know there's some weird stuff happening with the HOA, she said. Karen's been telling everyone that you agreed to let your pool be used as a community pool when you moved in. She's collected money from several families for pool maintenance fees. What? I was shocked. That's completely false. I figured, Teresa sighed. She tried to get $75 from me, but I told her I don't swim. Oliver, be careful. Karen got the previous HOA president ousted over some trumped-up violation. She plays dirty. Thanks for the heads up, Teresa. The next day, I had Tanner draft an official letter stating that my pool was private property, no such bylaw existed, and any attempt to access my yard without permission would be considered trespassing. I posted copies on my fence and sent one to each HOA board member. Karen's response was swift. That afternoon, I received notice of 3 violations: improper fence signage, my no trespassing sign, unauthorized landscaping, some potted plants by my pool, and creating a community nuisance, undefined. The fines totaled $750. When I called the HOA office to protest, the administrator, who sounded uncomfortable, told me that President Whitfield had pushed these through in an emergency session. This is harassment, I told her. And I'm not paying these fines. I understand, sir, she said quietly. But I should warn you that Ms. Whitfield is very serious about pursuing this. That evening, I added 2 more security cameras and made sure all my doors and gates were securely locked before leaving for my night shift at work. At 3:27 a.m., my phone alerted me to motion detected in my backyard. I checked the security feed to see Karen Whitfield and 2 men I recognized from the HOA board scaling my fence. They were carrying pool supplies and what looked like a small sign. I immediately called the police and rushed home, arriving just as 2 patrol cars pulled up. The officers followed me to my backyard gate, where we found Karen and her accomplices had set up a "community pool rules" sign beside my pool and were actually in my pool, swimming. What in the world is going on here? One officer demanded. Karen, to her credit, didn't miss a beat. Officer, this is the community pool. We're the HOA board and we're just installing updated safety signage. At 3 in the morning, the officer asked skeptically. It's my private property, I explained, showing them my deed and the security footage of them climbing over my fence. They broke in. I want to press charges. Karen's face went pale. That's not true. Oliver agreed to make his pool a community amenity. It's in the HOA bylaws. Show me, I challenged. Of course, she couldn't. The officers asked Karen and her friends to get out of the pool, and after confirming with county records that the property and pool were indeed privately owned, they arrested all 3 for criminal trespassing. As they were being led away, Karen shouted, "This isn't over, Baxter. The community has rights." I thought that would be the end of it. I was wrong. The next day, as I was cleaning up the mess they'd left behind, I heard the sound of children in my backyard. Rushing out, I found 5 kids I didn't recognize climbing over my fence. "Hey! Stop right there!" I yelled. They froze, looking guilty. "This is private property. How did you get in here?" "Ms. Whitfield gave us the code to the gate," one little girl said innocently. There was no code to my gate. It had a keyed padlock. Karen had literally sent children to trespass on my property. I carefully helped them back over the fence to the front yard and called their parents. When they arrived, they were horrified. They'd been told by Karen that I had agreed to host a children's swim day. She took $50 from each of us for pool maintenance, one angry father told me. By now, I was beyond frustrated. I filed a police report about the children incident, had my fence reinforced, and hired a lawyer to send a formal cease and desist to the entire HOA board. 2 days later, I woke up to find flyers all over the neighborhood with my picture and the words, "Pool Hoarder," in large red letters. The flyer claimed I had promised to share my pool with the community when I purchased my home but was now, selfishly keeping a vital community resource for myself during a heat wave. It was time to go on the offensive. With Tanner's help, I called for an emergency meeting of all HOA members, not just the board. Nearly everyone in the neighborhood showed up, curious about the drama that had been unfolding. Karen arrived late, strutting in like she owned the place. The smug look on her face vanished when she saw me standing at the front with a projector set up. "Good evening, everyone," I began. "I'm Oliver Baxter. Many of you know me as the guy with the pool who won't share. I'd like to clear a few things up." I proceeded to show them everything: the fabricated bylaw, the fake violation notices, the security footage of Karen breaking into my yard, and financial records Teresa had helped me obtain showing that Karen had collected over $3,000 in pool maintenance fees from neighborhood families. Where did that money go? I asked the stunned audience. Because it certainly didn't come to me. The room erupted in angry murmurs. Parents who had paid fees were especially outraged. Karen tried to speak, but the crowd wasn't having it. Furthermore, I continued, I've discovered that this isn't the first time Karen has done something like this. At her previous residence in Meadow Creek, she was removed from their HOA board for financial improprieties. That information, which Tanner had uncovered, was the final straw. Several homeowners immediately called for Karen's removal from the board. A motion was quickly proposed and seconded. Karen, realizing she was cornered, finally exploded. "You ungrateful people. I've been trying to improve our community values. Do you know what this pool would do for our property values if it were a community amenity? We could all benefit. Instead, this soldier boy wants to keep it all to himself." The room fell silent at her outburst. As a community with many veteran residents, her words didn't go over well. Teresa stood up. "I move to vote immediately on removing Karen Whitfield from the HOA board and to begin an audit of all HOA finances during her tenure." The vote was nearly unanimous. As Karen stormed out, she hissed at me, "You'll regret this." I didn't have to wait long to find out what she meant. That night, my security cameras caught her approaching my house with a garden hose and what looked like a bottle of something. I immediately called the police, who caught her in the act of pouring bleach into my pool while running my garden hose to flood my basement window wells. This time, Karen was charged with criminal trespassing, attempted property damage, and since the police investigation revealed she had indeed pocketed all those pool fees, fraud as well. The aftermath was surprisingly positive. With Karen gone, the HOA elected Teresa O'Connor as the new president. She immediately set about making the organization more transparent and actually helpful to the community. As for me, I did eventually share my pool, but on my terms. I hosted a neighborhood barbecue to clear the air and let everyone know that while my pool wasn't a public amenity, I was happy to occasionally invite neighbors over for supervised swim events. The best part came 2 weeks later when Teresa called to tell me the HOA audit had revealed that Karen had been skimming money for years, not just from the fake pool fees. The HOA attorney was pressing charges, and all the families who had paid pool fees would be reimbursed from Karen's frozen accounts. "There's something else," Teresa said hesitantly. "We found plans in Karen's HOA files. She was trying to get your property condemned through some municipal loophole so the HOA could seize it for a community center." "She what?" I was stunned. Apparently, your lot is the largest in the subdivision, and it's centrally located. She had her eye on it since you moved in. The pool dispute was just her trying to bully you into selling. It all made sense now. Karen's obsession with my pool wasn't just about the pool, it was about my entire property. The following weekend, I was relaxing by my pool when Teresa stopped by with a housewarming gift, a custom sign that read, "Baxter's Retreat, Private Paradise, Occasional Friends Welcome." "Thought you might want to replace that community pool sign Karen left," she said with a smile. "It's perfect," I told her, hanging it immediately. "And speaking of friends being welcome, would you like to join me? The water's great." Teresa laughed. "I'd love to, but I should warn you, I told you before that I don't swim, and I meant it. I sink like a rock. Then we'll stay in the shallow end," I promised. As the sun set over my hard-earned little piece of paradise, I felt a profound sense of relief. My home was secure, the community was healing from Karen's deceptions, and I'd even made some genuine friends through the ordeal. Sometimes, standing your ground isn't just about protecting what's yours, it's about exposing the truth and making things right for everyone. And sometimes, a private pool stays private, no matter how entitled someone else feels to it. Karen Whitfield eventually pleaded guilty to reduced charges and was sentenced to probation and community service, plus restitution to all the families she'd scammed. I heard she moved to a condo in the city, one with very strict rules against private pools. As for me, I still host the occasional neighborhood swim day, but everyone understands one important rule: it's by invitation only. And somehow, that makes everyone appreciate it all the more.